This is WCM's Park Update, a weekly show covering the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. During each episode, you'll hear from special guests and campground experts on topics that will help your park flourish. WCM's Park Update is a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine.
Hi, I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, and this is another episode of WCM's Park Update. And of course, my colleague Mike Gast is here, founder of the Miola Group, and our sponsor today is Campgrounds of America. And our guest is somebody who's probably pretty familiar to people who listen to the show, Kara Sismadia, who is the president of the Canadian Camping and RV Association. And Kara, you've been president for how long now?
Oh gosh, what is
Almost
it? October?
a year?
So a year and a half? Just about?
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess time flies, I guess.
It does. Yes.
So, well, that,
going back to the-
yeah. And I know you guys are pretty excited. Your conference is coming up, CampEX, and it's coming up in the middle of November near Niagara Falls, I guess. Correct?
Yeah, right in Niagara Falls. We'll be right over top of the great views there. So we've got, several dozen vendors and a few hundred attendees registered to join us November 17th through the 20th in Niagara Falls this year.
So, Kara, you move your convention around too, around the nation?
No, to be fair, we haven't had an in-person convention since 2012 in Canada. So
Wow.
This is our first kind of kick at the can in a dozen years now. And so I think, there's some pent-up demand for sure up here in terms of being able to gather in that kind of national format. We have held a couple of virtual events the last handful of years that have done well, but certainly have their drawbacks. So we're excited to finally get back in person and gather everybody in one place. We've got a really great agenda and all of that stuff coming together. I think if we see good attendance and turnout and outcomes from this one, we'll look to the future to definitely move it around the country. One of our biggest barriers to hosting in person is just the sheer kind of size of the country and how limiting or challenging it can be to get from one end to the other. It's very expensive to fly kind of coast to coast in Canada. So our aim will be, to try to expand accessibility to as many members as possible by ideally moving around the country. All that, of course, will depend on, members attending and showing up and participating and making it a really robust and successful event that will, in turn.
So it's been that long since you had one. It's got to sort of feel like you're starting from scratch a little bit if it's been that many years.
Yeah, well, and I'll say certainly for me, this is the first one. I've planned lots of virtual events, but this is the first kind of large in-person event I've been involved, start to finish. We've spent 16 months now strategizing and getting plans together in tandem with Camping in Ontario and the team in their office, provincially, they do a regional convention every fall on their own for their Ontario members. But I think everyone's really excited. I'm hearing from even those members who do attend a regional convention every year that they're really excited to get to meet campground owners from other areas of the country and just have that kind of broadened sense of exposure to the industry all in one place like that. I think it's again, we have roughly 2,000 members across, from coast to coast. And so I think there's great opportunity for it to be really successful event. But we don't have a ton of precedent set right now for campground owners and what they can expect from an event like this outside of Ontario, where they kind of have their own regional one each year. So we're really kind of on a fresh road here for certainly the staff and a lot of campground owners who've entered the industry, since 2012. I think there's great opportunity for it to be a really good networking and education opportunity for all of us.
So what's been the biggest surprise as you were planning this so far? There's always got to be something you didn't realize was going to happen.
Oh gosh, the biggest surprise. Well, aside from the wild expenses related to planning events and those things since COVID, especially in Niagara and those tourism regions, um, you know, outside of that, I think certainly there's, I expected to see more attendance from those areas of the country outside of Ontario. Um, we're I would love to see. We've still got tickets on sale. I would love to see more of them, buy in and show up. I think I've also been really surprised by the supplier support. We have tons of vendors kind of showing up and really supporting the event in a way I didn't expect. So I'm really, really grateful for all of that, and excited to see where it takes us for the future. I'm hoping maybe next year we'll or the year after, maybe we'll do every second year, but maybe go to BC or out west somewhere and try to kind of build off of the momentum that we've generated so far.
When you go to a tourist destination like this, how hard is it as an organizer to make sure that people stay at the conference center and not like go look at other things, I guess?
It's challenging, but I will say, part of our strategy has been to kind of build that into the planning component. I think it's reasonable to understand that our attendees have just worked a long, hard season and are ready to take a couple days off by mid-November. And so, we've got lots of fun stuff, comedy show and our live auction and all those fun things that are engaging and social and all of that. But we'll also be doing a campground tour. So we'll be loading campground owners into a series of school buses and driving around the region to visit some of our members whose businesses operate in the area. And so we'll get to stop, check out some of the sites and fun things along the way. So we're also final night on Tuesday night doing our gala celebration at a very fancy, wonderful venue that is actually kind of cantilevered out over the falls. Those are great experiences that I think build that side of the attendee experience right into the convention schedule.
Yeah, and I noticed that event's formal attire. See, that's one of the reasons I couldn't come to the conference. I don't know if I have a tuxedo.
You don't have a tuxedo, Ben?
Yeah, or a suit. So I don't know.
Shit. Well, I think we could make an exception on the tuxedo part. You could probably get
in Ben's case, formal attire means he wears socks.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a lot of not anxiety, I guess, but it seems like there's a very small window in the fall for all of these things. You've got people closing up the end of October. They want to get that big shoulder season in, and then you got to finish it up well before Christmas and the holiday. The Thanksgiving and Canadian Thanksgiving gets in the way too.
Yes.
How did you pick your spot to make sure you weren't stepping all over all these other conferences and opportunities there are in that short window you've got for these things?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be frank, we really struggled with this from the start. There's so many other events happening right at that time. We, like you mentioned, Thanksgiving. We're the week prior to U.S. Thanksgiving. We've got our Super Bowl, our Grey Cup is that Sunday that we're starting off. So, there's lots of things that we were kind of trying to be strategic about. In the end, it really did come down to seasonality. We did go to the members and ask them kind of what would be, ideal timing for them. That's difficult. I do have some members who are cutting their KOA experience a little bit short to get to us in time and things like that. So, those things are, I would say, the biggest challenge to getting this off the ground. I've got lots of vendors and suppliers who would love to be there, but just can't have staff and product and things in multiple areas of the continent all at the same time. So, logistically, those things are challenging. It's tough to know what the answer is. Certainly up here, we're also limited a little bit by weather. Once you start to get closer to the end of November and early December, travel gets a little bit more challenging too. We start to, like I'm experiencing today, the snow flew this morning, so that prolongs all of the things that we like to do. So yeah, we have a confluence of factors impacting the timing, and I would say it's been our biggest kind of hurdle to jump going forward. I don't know necessarily how that will impact future strategy. I think, when we first sat down to start planning for this, we looked at the calendar of everybody else's stuff and tried to find a window where we could fit ours in. And that's challenging too. Events were announced kind of after we'd already set our dates, and so you kind of just have to roll with those punches at that point. But I think in my ideal world, I'd like to see us move a couple weeks earlier in the future, maybe earlier in November, just so that we can miss that Canadian Thanksgiving, give them a couple weeks to transition after their season kind of end dates, which is usually around that Canadian Thanksgiving time, and then come out to convention before they transition into break
And
mode.
I'm assuming that you've got some vendors coming up from the lower 48 too, and that's got to be a challenge, just getting everything through customs and everything else that they need up there.
Yes, well, and we were also bogged down by some labor action by Canadian Border Services as we were planning all of this, so that was a bit delayed, but the dominoes fell how they needed to, and we got it sorted out. But yes, there's certainly a lot of moving parts, especially for those guys coming up from down south. We've got Camp Spot and New Book and all those guys coming up, but also Phelps Honey Wagon and a couple of glamping guys. So moving that big product and getting the logistics in place. I'm grateful to all of them for all of the work they've done, as well as our event services providers who've offered up those customs brokerage and logistics services to get it done. We're in a good place now. It feels like all the P's and Q's are in place, but I shouldn't say that, because God only knows that will curse me. But I think we're in a good spot to get it all done and logistically move things forward, which was definitely a barrier. When I heard Canadian Border Services was going on strike, I was like, oh no. But we're okay. We're okay now.
Well, we will take a break, recognize our sponsor, KOA, and we will be back in a minute. Campgrounds of America is the leading brand in camping, known for its 60-plus years of expertise and trusted quality. By joining the KOA family, franchisees benefit from the strong brand recognition, operational excellence, and a proven business model designed to foster growth and success. The flexible franchise options empower owners to achieve their goals while providing an exceptional camping experience for guests. To learn more about joining the KOA family of campgrounds, visit ownakoa.com. Hi, welcome back to WCM's Park Update, and we are talking with Kara Sismadia, the president of the Canadian Camping and RV Association, and we're talking about CampEX, which is happening from November 17th through November 20th in Niagara Falls, Ontario. And just talking a little bit about what they have set up for their conference this year, their first in-person conference for a long time. I guess, Kara, when you were looking at what you wanted on the educational side, what were some of the things that your members were telling you that they'd really love to explore more, I guess?
Yeah, that arguably has been one of the most enriching parts of this experience for me. I was able to gather a committee of campground members, or campground owners, pardon me, who really laid the groundwork for what they expected or wanted to see from the education portions of the event. Some of those operators have been to the Ontario convention year after year, and so they're kind of used to that dynamic, and others haven't been to a convention in person ever before. And so we had a kind of a broad range of perspectives to contribute to that conversation. And I also think we had a broad range of owners who are in different phases of their kind of business cycle. I have some who have been operating for 30 or 40 years and are in a certain business phase, and others who are brand new. And so we tried to, within the limitations of having only a couple of days, we really tried to kind of narrow down to a few really key components. We have a lot of focus right now, or attention by campground owners being paid to emergency response planning and recovery after things like wildfires and flooding and things like that we've had several members be impacted by in the last little while, and that's obviously having other implications that I think those sessions will touch on around insurance coverage and policy wordings and things like that. But then we've also got camp store session that I'm really excited about, the kind of retail strategy side of things that I think is good, just daily operations, standard operating procedure stuff that campgrounds like to see. We've got some really kind of drilled down topics. There's our winterizing RVs session, for example, very, very specific topic that a lot of campgrounds are using to kind of expand or diversify revenue opportunity. So we've got an RV service tech coming in to go through that opportunity with them. Whereas there's some sessions that are a lot more broad. Our AI marketing session will be an interesting and probably long conversation full of questions and things like that. So a range of stuff. Certainly we have members who want to hear about, data trends, things like that to help them strategize for 2025 and beyond. So sessions related to that as well. And then, some enriching stuff. We've got a great keynote speaker coming in, Dan Trometer. He's just engaging and fun and talks about potential and perspective and all of these things in a unique way, and kind of a magician, works some cool stuff into the show too. So that'll be fun, and I think a good way to shift, a good message to help us shift perspective about the industry as we're seeing some things start to change after the last couple of years of interesting dynamic for us up here.
Yeah, what's been interesting, I go to a number of conferences every year, and it's been interesting. You mentioned the retail, how more park owners are getting more into the retail side of thing. I think they must realize that there's a really good revenue stream they can create through the retail spaces, because I know a lot of conferences here the last year or so have included some sort of retail component, and it's great that you guys have something like that helps people learn how to set up their stores and do things the right way, I guess. So
yeah, absolutely agreed. I think the majority of operators are looking at ways to get creative about revenue opportunities right now, as we're seeing kind of pricing kind of level off and things like that. They need to be strategic about ways to keep the doors revolving in terms of revenue.
So what are the big challenges facing Canadian park owners that may be different than what we're seeing down in the U.S.?
I would say, things are probably fairly similar to what you guys are experiencing down there. The occupancy has softened a little bit. Booking window has really shifted. We're seeing, folks not booking as long in advance, and I think that has a lot to do with unexpected wildfires impacting cancellations and whether you can access a park and all of those things. Folks are kind of waiting and seeing when is going to be the best time to go. We're also seeing the shoulder seasons really shift in terms of occupancy. We really used to, in my days as a campground owner, that summer break from school, that July and August time, was always the really crazy time. And we're really seeing folks, I think, because it's far less volatile in terms of wildfire and risk around those things, that we're seeing the May and June and then September, October bookings, certainly on the weekends, of course, those times when school's still in, but even midweek, really picking up, which is obviously great to see. I think that consumer trend is going to start impacting dynamic pricing and stuff like that, the strategies that operators are using to capture that high traffic time, the dollars related to that high traffic time. But those are all good things. I think certainly we're seeing the economic dynamic is a little bit challenging, interest rates and all those things, which I know is a little bit more magnified, I think, up here than for you guys down in the States. I think it's impacting, families are taking 3 camping trips instead of 5, things like that. So that's having an all-around impact. I think also, obviously, in terms of RV sales and things like that, folks are kind of waiting a little bit more than maybe they were 2 years ago to get their hands on a new RV or do an upgrade or whatnot. So, things are slow. I think overall, I shouldn't say things are slow. Things have slowed, but overall, I think we're really just seeing kind of a correction back to more kind of normalcy after a couple of years of real kind of boom in terms of
How about the difficulty of finding campground insurance? I know that's just been a while down here, and it's really been a top concern. It's the same up there?
Yes, it is our top issue after one of our biggest consistent advocacy challenges that we've been lobbying the federal government for, related to an income tax classification at the federal level. That our members' surveys always come back with insurance coming right behind that. That's their top concern, and then insurance the next challenge. We certainly are having. I weekly have members reaching out to me looking for a new insurance company after they got dropped by their current one or whatnot. So or suddenly the policy cost doubled, and so they're shopping around. Those are big challenges that we're talking about at an association level to try to help address. There's some opportunities for us to capture some or generate hopefully some robust partnerships with some providers here. But I think there's a bigger strategy that the association is going to have to start to look at around advocating for some sort of insurance legislative change. We don't have the same kind of inherent risk legislation that a lot of areas of the States have related to campgrounds specifically. I think we have there's been a lot of work done for inherent risk protection in other industries, the amusement park industry, the ski industry. Those guys have done a lot of work to ensure that the insurance regulations address that inherent risk base just that exists in their industry naturally. And I think we need to start to address some of that from an industry perspective at the association level to help get us further down the road like those industries have done. Though that's a long road, I think, that we'll have to walk. But in the meantime, we have had a couple of unique new products start up that we've seen partnerships launch with. Signature Risk Insurance has opened or created a campground specific insurance product, and you can access, Canadian campgrounds can access that product through their broker. Any broker in the country can sell it to them. So that's helping with accessibility and cost. That specific product is really addressing the, exact specific needs of campground owners and the campground business itself. The insurance providers there have a good comprehensive understanding of operating a campground and good industry experience that enables them to provide coverage in cases where some campgrounds haven't been able to get coverage otherwise, or have been treated negatively potentially by their previous suppliers. So those things are happening, but I think a bigger solution for sure needs to come, and we are deep in conversations at the association level to work on addressing those hurdles for members, no doubt.
Yeah. What, up here, down here, we talk a little bit, I guess, you're not in Mexico,
yeah.
you're in Canada. So,
Yeah.
Still North America.
Yeah, it's still North America. So, we're, down here, when we talk to developers and different things like that, there's been the issue of helping people, the local municipalities, governments understand what an RV park or campground is. Do you guys face that same issue in Canada, where you're trying to educate government officials about sort of what these parks are and what they provide, I guess?
Absolutely, yes. We're probably 2 years into a pretty comprehensive strategy to deploy that at the federal, provincial, and municipal levels of government in a variety of ways. We're attending government events at each of those levels, and we've actually gathered the RV dealer, manufacturer, and campground industries together and unified and ratified our own specific definitions, not only of what a campground and RV park is, but also those specific definitions based on the CSA or NFPA code, building codes for RVs, so that they understand. We have hurdles around long-term occupancy in RVs and things like that we want to share those definitions to ensure that there's understanding at those levels of government as well, that those RV products are for recreational purposes. And so, yes, we are continually addressing this. We are in a unique position. We've recently had a federal kind of advocacy win. We've spent the last 9 years working with the federal government, trying to get this change to the income tax code to qualify campgrounds as small businesses. Up until now, they've been classified as specified investment businesses at a roughly 52% income tax rate versus the 18% small business rate. So we have finally had a private members bill introduced in the House of Commons. One of the positive kind of outcomes of this is that our definition of a campground will be acknowledged in that income tax legislative change, that I'm hopeful will set precedent for the other levels of government to accept that definition of a campground, which will now be federally recognized in the income tax code, to also trickle down to the provincial and municipal levels of government, where we see obviously taxation, provincial taxation, as well as property taxation and things like that at the municipal level. It's a huge hurdle. We have consistent challenges and issues. It's, I would say, one of the biggest things. I consistently have members coming to me saying, my property tax just went up and they want to charge me per site, per unit, and all of those things similar to a housing development. And so, we're having to have this conversation over and over. If we can address it ideally from the federal level and trickle that down, I'm hopeful that will be a kind of side blessing to that Income Tax Act reclassification for campgrounds.
Wow. Yeah. Well, how can people learn more about CampEX, I guess? Where do they need to go to register and learn more about the conference?
Yes, cohce.ca. So Canadian Outdoor Hospitality Conference Expo, cohce.ca. All of the information is there, accommodation information. Our hotel booking window closes in 4 days. If you want to get a discount on your hotel room, getting a hotel room in Niagara Falls for $169 a night is impossible. Please book your hotel room before the 25th.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of transportation information, all the registration stuff. Our agenda is there. Lots of information still to come on that site as we continue to build out speaker bios and comprehensive session topics and all of those things to include in the content there. If you want to attend and want to learn more, or hey, I'll give you a discount code. Reach out to me, Kara at campincanada.ca. I'll give you a discount code and save you some money. Register, come join us.
Yeah, and it's a gorgeous area. If you've never been to the Niagara Falls area, now is a great time to go, and you can and see everything and meet some great campground people. So, well, it was great to see you, Kara, and I hope the conference goes well. And thanks everyone for watching the show, and we will be back again next week.
Thank you for listening to WCM's Park Update, a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine. Join us for a new show each Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn for daily news and updates, and subscribe to our news feed on our website at woodallscm.com.